This week, most of your yard quietly stopped being something you cut. Nobody announced it. The middle of August is the line. 2 universities print that exact date. 2 more say it in their own words. And you have just crossed it. None of that is your fault. The rule you were handed is measured from your first frost, and it came out of a nursery manual, not a garden one. I'll show you where. So here's where we actually stand. 8 jobs. Some you've missed by days. Some still have until the 31st. Then 3 you must not put a blade near. And 1 is the plant everybody's cutting this week. Number 8 is the one you've been worrying about for nothing. Number 1 is a cut that never grows back, and you very likely got the plant. Number 8, and I'm starting here on purpose, because it's the one on this list where the answer is stop worrying. Ornamental grasses. The miscanthus, the maiden grass, the big fountain grass by the mailbox. You will have been told not to touch them now. That cutting them in summer shocks them, or weakens them, or opens them to something. I've heard all 3 across a counter. Illinois Extension went and looked, and their answer treats it as a looks question and nothing else. Cut the grass late in the season, and it triggers new growth from the base of the plant. And after a few weeks of regrowth, in their words, it should look good as new. That's the whole finding. No disease, no damage, no death. So if a storm flattened yours in July and it's been lying across the path like a wet mop ever since, cut it. Take it down. You haven't heard anything, and by the end of September, there'll be fresh growth standing up out of the middle of it. What you lose is winter. That's the real trade, and nobody names it. Iowa State's advice is to leave grasses standing until April, and the reason isn't the plant's health either. It's that a grass in frost is one of about 4 things in an American garden still worth looking at in January. There's one small cost to leaving them, and it's honest. Iowa State says the old foliage sitting over the crown can delay the plant warming up in spring by as much as 3 weeks. So, cut it now if it's an eyesore. Leave it if you want the frost. Both are fine, and anyone who tells you one of them is killing the plant hasn't read the trial. That's the easy one. Number 7 is the opposite. It's the mistake I see most often, and it's usually made by somebody being careful. Number 7. And this one is about a whole group of plants getting one rule when they need 2. People say, the evergreens. Like it's one thing. It isn't. And the universities don't treat it as one thing either. University of Wisconsin splits them, on the same page, into 2 groups with 2 different months. Yew, hemlock, and arborvitae. Shear these in late spring or early summer, after the new growth has expanded. You can also do them in spring, before that growth pushes. Junipers and false cypress. A completely different instruction, and I'm saving that one for the end, because it's the one where the mistake sticks. So if you've got an arborvitae hedge along the property line, and you were planning to run the shears over it this weekend to tidy it for fall, that's the wrong month. Not dangerous, but wrong. You wanted late May, early June, right after the new growth finished pushing out. Now you're cutting into wood that was going to harden off, and you're forcing a flush that has weeks rather than months to firm up. And up north, that isn't enough. Iowa State is blunter and covers the whole group. Avoid pruning narrow-leaved evergreens in fall. Fall pruned shrubs are more susceptible to winter injury. What it costs you is a brown fringe, not the plant. The outside inch of it all the way along, from the first hard frost until it grows out the following June. On the one plant in your yard whose entire job is to look the same all year. So mark it, late May. And if there's a branch sticking out that's driving you mad, take that one branch and leave the shears alone. Before number 6, if you'd rather have all of this in one place then chase a different video for every plant in your yard. A friend of mine and I put it into one guide. It goes month by month through what we actually do out here, what we deliberately leave alone, and the jobs we stopped doing years ago once we found out they weren't helping. It's called the Low Maintenance Garden Blueprint. It's at henrysgardensecrets.com, and the link is right below this video. Number 6. Wisteria. If you've got one, you know the complaint. It grows like something out of a story. It throws long whippy shoots in every direction all summer, and the flowers, when they come at all, come out somewhere near the gutter, where nobody standing on the patio can see them. That's not the plant misbehaving. That's the plant doing exactly what it was built to do, which is climb, and nobody ever told you the job. Missouri Botanical Gardens instruction: cut the new shoots back by half when they're about 2 feet long, and continue pruning this way throughout the summer. They say you may have to do it 3 or 4 times. Oregon State cuts harder. Clip the growth back to 2 or 3 buds. Their reason is the useful bit. It keeps the flower-bearing spurs close to the main framework, and it stops the vine getting into your roof, your gutters, and the tree next door. That's the whole trick. Every time you shorten a whip, you're telling the plant to make a flower bud near the trunk instead of a foot of rope near the roof line. Do it 4 times a summer, and next May the flowers hang at eye level. Now, honesty, because I'm going to be careful about this the whole video, neither of those sources says August, they both say summer. I'm putting it here because August is the last month of summer where this does anything. After that, the plant is winding down and you're just tidying. But I'm not going to put a word in a university's mouth that isn't there. If you only take one thing from this one, it isn't one big cut in 1 week. It's 4 small ones between June and now. Before I go on, I want one thing from you, and it's specific. Tell me in the comments what you've got out there off this list and put your state next to it. That second part matters more than you'd think. The same job moves by 2 full months between Minnesota and Georgia, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why. I read every one. Number 5. Boxwood. This is the plant at the front door. It's the one every visitor walks past. It's the one that makes the house look kept. And it's the one people trim whenever there's a spare Saturday. Clemson's wording is as plain as extension gets. Do not shear boxwood in late summer or after mid-August, since this may force new growth, which will not have sufficient time to harden off before frost. Iowa State says the same thing from 800 miles north. Do not prune boxwoods in late summer. Late season growth won't have time to harden before winter. Clemson down in South Carolina, Iowa State up in the corn, opposite ends of the temperature range, same month. That's about as solid as this subject gets. And here's what it costs if you do it anyway next weekend. That flush of soft new growth sits on the outside of the plant, the part you actually see, and it goes brown in the first hard frost. Not dead, just brown, on the front of your house, from November until it grows out in June. I watched this happen every November. Somebody would come in with a phone photo of 2 brown boxwoods either side of a front door, asking what the disease was. It was never a disease. It was a September haircut. So the shaping is gone for this year. Leave it. It'll look shaggy for 9 months and be perfectly fine. But there's a second half to Clemson's advice that almost nobody quotes, and it hands you the job back. Thinning can be done anytime when the temperature is above freezing. Thinning isn't shearing. Shearing is running the blades over the outside and making a shape. Thinning is reaching inside and taking whole small branches out at their base so light and air get into the middle of the plant. That you can do in October, that you can do in January. It doesn't force a flush, because you're not cutting growing tips off, you're removing whole pieces. And thinning is the one that actually helps the plant, because boxwood's real problem is a dense, airless middle that never dries out. So you've lost the haircut and kept the surgery, and the surgery was worth more. Number 4 is another window that's shut, and this one people find harder to accept. Number 4, the old rambling roses and the climbers that flower once in a great rush in June. Not your modern repeat bloomers. Those are number 3, and they get the opposite instruction. These are the ones that cover a fence or an arch, go off like fireworks for 3 weeks in early summer, and then do nothing for the rest of the year except grow. Rutgers puts a window on it, closed at both ends. Summer pruning, after bloom and before mid-August, can be done to shape up these roses. That's the only job on this whole list with a hard stop date written into the sentence. And if you're watching this the week I'm putting it out, it's shut. The reason is what Clemson explains. Old-fashioned rambling roses and one-time spring-blooming climbers flower best on one-year-old wood, the canes that grew last summer. So, the long green canes coming up right now, the ones you keep tucking back into the trellis, are next June's flowers. Cut those and you've canceled the show. So what do you do instead? Nothing, and I mean that as an instruction, not a shrug. A rambler left alone for a year is untidy. A rambler cut in late August is untidy and has no flowers and goes into winter carrying soft growth. One of those is a year of looking scruffy. The other is a year of looking scruffy with nothing on it. Tuck the long canes in where they'll do some good, tie them loosely, and put a note in the calendar for the week the flowers finish next June. That is the whole job. I'd rather tell you the window's shut than have you take a Saturday and make it worse. Stop there a second, because there's a pattern in the first 4, and it's worth naming before we go on. Arborvitae, boxwood, ramblers. 3 different families, and underneath all 3, the same worry. Soft new growth that won't be hard enough by the time the cold arrives. Almost every date on this list is that one thing wearing different clothes. And notice which 2 didn't have a date. The grasses and the wisteria. The 2 where nothing is racing the frost. That isn't a coincidence either. And now the rule you were actually given. Stop pruning 6 weeks before your first frost. I went looking for who says that, because it's everywhere. The only place I could find that number in university literature is a North Carolina state publication about growing nursery stock in pots. Not gardens. Pots on a gravel pad. But don't throw it away, because it explains something no list ever does. 6 weeks before first frost in Zone 4 is the 4th of August. 6 weeks before first frost in Zone 8 is the 4th of October. Same rule, 2 months apart. That is why you and your sister down in Georgia read the same article and both come away right, and why every list like this one feels wrong to somebody. From here down, where there's a northern date and a southern date, I'll give you both. Number 3, your ordinary garden roses, the hybrid teas, the floribundas, the shrub roses that keep going until frost. For these, the August job isn't cutting, it's stopping. 2 things, both this month. The first is deadheading. Iowa State. Stop deadheading hybrid teas, grandiflors, and floribundas in late summer, late August or September. Illinois says something different. Flowers should not be cut after October 1st, 6 weeks apart, and both are right, for the reason I gave you a minute ago. Iowa is looking at a Zone 4 winter. Illinois is writing for a longer season. Take the northern date if you're north, the southern one if you're south, and if you're in the middle, mid-September will not hurt you. Now, why does stopping matter at all? Iowa State gives the reason, and it's one of my favorites in gardening, because the plant is doing something clever and we keep interrupting it. The development of rose hips, the fruit, slows plant growth and helps prepare the plant for winter. That's it. When a rose finally manages to set seed, it stops trying. The urgency goes out of it, the growth slows, the canes firm up, and it starts getting ready for the cold. Every time you snip a faded flower off, you tell it the job isn't done, and it pushes another soft shoot. Do that into October, and you hand winter a plant full of green stems. The second thing to stop is feeding, and Penn State gives a flat date. Start monthly fertilizer in April and stop in August. Same reason, other end of the pipe. You can stop pruning and still be pushing growth out of a bag. And a small correction, because this one circulates, you'll be told deadheading isn't really pruning, that it's only the flower head, so it doesn't count. It isn't true. Clemson's own definition is that deadheading is pruning to remove older faded flowers, and both Penn State and Illinois tell you to cut down the stem to the first healthy set of leaves. It's a cut like any other. What's real is the calendar, not the loophole. Before the last two, there are 3 plants this whole video does not apply to, and one of them is the thing half the internet is telling people to cut this week. 3 plants, blade nowhere near them. 1. Hydrangea. Minnesota's wording. These plants produce buds in late summer to early fall, August to September, that will form next year's flowers. So prune them after they finish blooming, before August, which means the buds are forming in that plant right now, this week, while you're looking at it. Cut it, and you're not shortening a shrub, you're throwing next June in the yard waste bag. I made a whole video on this 3 days ago. It's on the card, and it covers which types this applies to and which 2 are exempt. Here it's just, put the shears down. 2. Azalea and rhododendron. Georgia gives a date nobody else does. Many azaleas there begin setting flower buds in July, and their instruction is do not prune later than the first week in July. So the plant has time to make new growth and set bloom buds first week of July. That's a southern date, and up north bud set runs later, but it only moves one direction. By mid-August, you're past it everywhere. If yours is straggly, mark it and do it next May, the week the flowers finish. 3. Lilac, forsythia, weigela, mock orange, and deutzia. Rutgers has all 5 in one table, one rule. Spring flowering shrubs bloom on 1-year-old wood that grew the previous summer. Colorado State fills in the timing. The buds develop from midsummer through fall, over winter, and bloom the following spring. So next April's lilac is being made in that wood right now. And Rutgers gives a hard stop. Do not prune spring or summer flowering shrubs in late summer or early fall, after mid-August through leaf fall. There's a second cost I'd never heard until this week, from Missouri. Prune before the leaves drop, and you also remove minerals in the leaves and stems before they can be moved into the stems and roots for winter storage. Think about that. A shrub in September is pulling everything useful out of its leaves and banking it in the roots. That's the color change. Cut those branches off while it's still working and you've thrown the deposit away. Wait 6 weeks and the plant keeps it, which leaves 2. Number 2 is the only thing on this entire list where the window is still open, and it shuts with the month. If it's useful having somebody go and read the university sheet before telling you what to do, subscribe. That's mostly what this channel is. Number 2, junipers and false cypress, the feathery gold and blue-green ones people put by the drive, along the front walk, on the bank nobody mows. I said at number 7 that Wisconsin splits the evergreens into 2 groups. Here's the other half of that page. Do not prune these plants after August, as the new growth will not harden off sufficiently before winter. After August, which means, as I'm recording this, you have 12 days. And this is the only job on the whole list that hasn't already closed. Same page says the scale-leaved and all-leaved kinds, that's what a juniper's foliage is, can be tip pruned in summer. Tip pruned. The end of the shoot where it's soft and green. So if you've got a juniper leaning over the sidewalk or a false cypress that swallowed the porch light, this is the fortnight. Take the tips, take individual branches back to a fork, and stand back and look every few cuts. Because on this plant, more than any other in your yard, you cannot go back and undo it. And that phrase, back to a fork, is not me being fussy. On most shrubs, if you cut too hard, the plant pushes new shoots out of the old wood and fills back in by the following summer. A conifer cannot do that. There are no dormant buds sitting in that bare brown interior waiting to be woken up. So every cut has to land somewhere that still has green on it, which is number 1, and it applies to every conifer in your yard, including the 3 from number 7. Number 1, and it isn't a month. It's one sentence from Colorado State, and it's the most expensive thing in this video. Because new growth comes only from the growing tips, branches cannot be pruned back into wood without needles. And their next line is flat, pruned back to bare wood. The shrub will have a permanent bare spot. Permanent, not next season, for the life of the plant. I did this myself, and I've never quite got over it. Somewhere around 2006, I took the Pfitzer juniper by my own drive back hard, because it was over the sidewalk and I was in a hurry on a Sunday. That plant is still there, and there is still a brown saddle across the middle of it, exactly where I cut, 20 years on. Cut to green or don't cut. So there's one question before you pick up a blade this week. Not what, when. And underneath every date on this list, one reason. Soft growth that won't harden before the cold gets here. Learn that and you never need the list again. 3 things come off any day of the year, whatever the month: dead, damaged, diseased. New Hampshire, Iowa State, and Connecticut all say it. Everything else, mid-August to leaf fall, shears in the shed. What have you got out there that's on this list? Tell me below.